Afternoon all, and Merry Christmas. As you can see, we're in festive spirits. Jossy even bought a hat. That's how exciting it all is here. I myself have got a tiny Christmas tree in the background to, I don't know,
I've let the team down. Sorry, boys. I did mean to do something Christmassy in the background.
Is that a sprig of holly on your shoulder?
Exactly. It kind of looks like that, doesn't it? Yeah, I should have just put some lights on that or something, but yeah.
There you go. Well, no, that's fine. So we're slipping into the kind of pre-Christmas slot here. Whether it's in Christmas spirit or not, I don't know, but we'll certainly kick off. Actually, whilst we're talking about good spirits and that sort of thing, I'll share that photo that you just got a little bit earlier, Danny. See if I can rustle it up and stick it on the screen, if I can.
This is one I sent rather than one at Baker. For some reason, it was an absolute shocking picture of me. But yeah, no, it was nice. I had a little quick chat with the boys. It's really nice, isn't it, for Zoff and Late Risers to have met for the first time after been podding together for 5 years and known each other for about 10 years. You've known Zoff for a while, haven't you, Jossy? I think.
Yeah, but all three of us were in a WhatsApp group. Actually, they've left now, but we've been in a WhatsApp group with Bakar, those two lads. 2016 it was. A couple of legends. Nice of them to finally get together.
Yeah, it's great, wasn't it? So I was feeling pretty. I mean, I was saying to Jossy before, I was been sort of pretending to work today, and I should have actually not actually achieved anything or done anything. So I should have just actually planned to do nothing and then written off the day and actually been in a pub at the same time or something. But never mind, we'll make up for it later on. But yeah, it's good to see all those boys.
Nice stuff. Good. I hope Zoff, Late Riser, and Baker are enjoying their festivity. It looks like they are. I suspect they're about 6 pints deep by now. So if you're listening and you can still focus, that's an achievement. Well done. But that's good stuff. We'll do a last resort drunken meetup at some point for with dubious pictures to share, I'm sure, at some point or another. So we'll focus on that. Today, though, we have other priorities in mind. Let's just move on from that. And there's a lot to discuss. Actually, just whilst we're here, quick numbers check. Jossy, any early moves? And you're on mute. Classy. Well done. You won't be invited back at this rate.
After I said he never forgets to unmute himself.
You don't have to declare your moves.
Two moves. I made the early. Oh, sorry. Just quantity.
Just the numbers. So 2 early moves for you, Danny.
Well, what is early? Because I suppose early now this week is Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. So not super early, but early enough. I've made one after all of my players have played. But yeah, made one transfer so far.
I think that's broadly the sensible, boring managers, approach, isn't it? If it's during games and you've still got players to do, that's a no. Unless it's absolutely necessary. I mean, occasionally that might happen. If it's after your players have played, then you're allowed just about. So that's kind of how it works here. So all of you in the chat who are pushing up prices, you know who you are, ruining my Saturday night or whatever it was.
And if Harry's watching, we're not names.
No, I know. Felt bad for him. I made one transfer before the carnage that we're about to talk about unfolded, so I still had 3 in my back pocket after that, so it wasn't too
fair enough.
It's a bit of an odd part of FPL. So you said, Jossy, you were a kind, magnanimous person there. Danny less so, I would say, on this particular one. But Jossy's already said, I feel sorry for him. There's a little bit of me. I'm like, you're listening on audio. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I feel very sorry for you. No, absolutely. But yeah, very, very tricky. Let's just have a quick say hello to the chat, and then we'll talk about what we're on to. David, who I assume is son of a gun, David. Rumor has it that Richie is the real Santa Claus. Yeah, I think that's perfectly possible. Lots of people are asking for best Bruno replacements. Don't worry, I think we might cover that on some level early. Crimson Skull sounds a bit threatening. While this is early, I can actually catch it live. We won't make a habit of it, but we work. Well, at least 2 of us here work in higher education, and no one really cares today at this point in time. Surely we can get away with it. So yeah, and Andrew Barton is the Grinch for Christmas a good day not to be a Fernandes non-owner? There you go. Well, best player in the game has now got an injury. We will talk about that in a bit. Top priorities then for this week. We're in festive cheer, yes, from that slide, but we've got a lot going on. Who matters most this week? Dealing with Bruno, dealing with Hugo, all sorts of things to discuss. Let's have a quick round up of no, before that. Apologies. This is obviously a bit of a rubbish shout out for this because, of course, we still got Monday game left, and I mean there are some bad managers with bad players tonight. So Danny and I think, are out of our players because we wouldn't pick Fulham unless we had to. Jossy, I still believe, has 2. We'll come to that in a minute. But yeah, anyway, mini league. Sorry, I'm being quite cruel today. Matthew Nuttall has swung to the top with Defcon Dynamos, pushing. I might have got that wrong. I've definitely got that wrong. I'm pretty sure number 5 there is meant to be our good friend Zach, who's been pushed down from 1 to 5. Zach, apologies, your name is there in really. I just was doing this at speed. But Matthew Nuttall top, Navarre Martin number 2, and Sean Byrne number 3. And player of the week, Luke Davis with 100 points so far. Wow, I don't know how you managed that. I'm guessing triple captain, which I had. Was very pleased about that. And a quick note on this. So mini league, this is the last week that you can join. If I remember to, then I will certainly be pressing buttons and blocking any new entrants after this week if I can remember. So slip in by Boxing Day, because that is your last chance to beat Danny. I noticed, by the way, that obviously we don't really check that carefully for ourselves, but it looks like we're more or less neck and neck on the leaderboard. So I mean, neither of us are winning, put it that way. But we're not doing the worst either. So hopefully one of us.
As long as one of us makes it onto this screen at some point this season, that'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's not going to be easy, but that's the aim, isn't it? Yeah.
No. Especially with old Nuttall and co doing their worst up there as well. But the league code for the last time, probably. Yeah, I think probably so. LZK I6K. Do you check this, Jossy, or are you not really a mini league guy?
I'm a big mini league checker, but I'm not as high up the league as you boys are.
Oh, good.
I'm having a middling season, so I'm not approaching the top 10. So maybe I'm not checking this one as closely yet because I'm not in the mix.
Oh, actually, I don't know whether this is true. FPL, is that you? FPL Easy, they're 100 points for Easy. Oh, well, good for you. There we are. That's all that not listening to our advice has paid off finally. Well done. Excellent stuff. Okay, so that's going to end soon. We've actually got a draft league that we're all in that's participating at 5:30. So we will be dashing off after this to try and secure sirens already, to try and secure the last 1 or 2 premiums that are still fit, to be fair. That seems to be the way. Not going to dwell on teams. I'm going to give you like a minute each to just run through your weeks. Danny, do you want to tell us about how this week has gone for you?
Yeah, it was pretty meh. I felt like it would be going in. It was one of those. I'll just say it quickly, but it's one of those weeks where, you know, when you sort of go in and you feel like you've got most of the sort of guys, and you sort of think, so you're sort of not really worried about it being a horrible weekend where it's going to be just a painful one, but you know you can't get excited either. And it usually is a bit meh, and it was pretty annoying in the end. But I mean, I had Senesi on 11 points until the 90th minute clean sheet wipeout, which was very annoying because obviously sort of saved him for this fixture. And a lot of people don't own him anymore, so that was annoying. And got O'Reilly in, which is fine, another 6, which is like, oh, fine. You know, he does nothing on the bonus front or the DEFCON front, so ideally he could start doing some stuff. And then Raya and Timber. I didn't watch the Arsenal game live, but apparently Timber could have like mega hauled, and that's kind of a little bit frustrating again. I mean, did you see just quickly? Did you see the bonus points thing? Because Raya was on 2 bonus, and I just read about the pass, but he basically passed it. Apparently, passed it like 5 yards to Nkapie in like the 95th minute or something stupid, or in injury time. And all Nkapie had to do was control it, and he miscontrolled it, so it went out for throwing. And that resulted in an extra point for Hincapié and initially a -2 for Raya, which then obviously became a -1. So Hincapié miscontrolling a pass ends up with a -2 points one way or the other. What a stupid game we play.
It is ridiculous.
So yeah, cool. that's about all there is to say, apart from Semenyo. Yeah.
Oh, I've put things in the wrong order.
No, it doesn't matter. You've got pretty much the same team as me.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what? I don't
Quick, skip past it. Remove it. Go past it. Get rid of it.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. This is what happens when I leave things for the last minute. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But basically, I had triple captain, and that's what.
Take that spoiler off the screen. Take the spoiler off the screen.
I'm in control here. I'll do whatever I like. Basically, I had triple captain. That's the only thing that saved me from an average week. So yeah, what did he get in the end? Was it 48?
Yeah, so he got exactly the same as what?
Something like that.
Yeah, he got 16. So he got exactly the same as I got on my triple captain in whatever week it was, and then
Gameweek 6 versus Burnley.
Gameweek 6 versus Burnley, and I think there was another week that triple captain got something similar, wasn't it? And then there was the other week that everyone went, which was against Sunderland, where he completely blanked or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Leeds a couple of weeks ago, he literally did nothing. Devastating.
So I think it's something in the low 80s from memory, because I think you've got Semenyo and he did pretty well, didn't he? But yeah, I've still got stinkers like Minte in my team. We'll come to that a bit later on. All right, let's go straight to Jossy.
Yeah, so again, it was very meh week. Like the big midfielders, Foden, Saka, Minte, with a decent fixture, all 3-pointers. Then Fernandes conspires to get even less than that. Only returns I've got basically are the O'Reilly at 6, Timber at 6, and Verbruggen, the legend that is Verbruggen, coming in with 11 points. That was the most nervous last 10 minutes of a game. I was thinking he's going to lose this. He's going to lose this. And then obviously the Haaland points, which were damaging to me rank. But I do have Anderson with an E and Wilson, the legend that is Wilson, hopefully with another 16-pointer this week. So hopefully you can rescue the game week, but 67 at the moment. A little bit of a red.
Nice. Some of the free hits and bench boosts have been absolutely hilarious this week, haven't they? I'm thinking, I know Sam. Shout out to Sam because I saw his team and he had made a few transfers to make it worthwhile on the bench boost. So he had to afford it. So he had his goalkeepers were Kelleher and Verbruggen, and he brought in Dominic Calvert-Lewin to make the bench boost work. And I think he might have had Brentford or Brighton defender as well. And then you had the guys who were on for some of the guys on free hit in that team. I think it was JC, isn't it, or something? Was triple? What was it? Triple Brentford defense with Kelleher in net, and then he can save a penalty in the last kick. Yeah, so there was some monster scores like 110 plus, and that was pretty much free hits and bench boosts this week.
Just loading up the slides actually again to make sure that they're in the correct order now. But yeah, we're going to kick off, move straight on to questions in just a second whenever that kind of loads up. Won't be any huge shock as to here we are. Won't be any huge shock as to know where we're going to be going straight away, more or less. Let's go. We are. So, Jossy, obviously you've been dragged in as resident scouser again, so expect lots of Everton and Liverpool questions. I know that it's kind of offensive to ask you to cover both, but that'll be where we point you towards a fair amount tonight. But we've got to start really with this big one. Obviously, the Isak injury, not entirely confirmed as to the nature of it yet, I think it's fair to say. But I don't know what the news today has been, but I know that various things from lower leg and ankle injury to a potential leg break or fracture has changed everything. Actually, the first question last week was about Ekitike, and still can't say it, can I? We'll sort that out at some point. I haven't got that many hours in the day, basically. But we'll go Hugo, yeah. No, but I don't think there's been any changed injury circumstance today, but nevertheless, it does look fairly clear that Isak is out for quite a long term. So FPL Matt, who's a big supporter of the pod, so thank you, Matt, for sending this in. I think Thiago is favourable, so he's asking whether it's worth moving on Thiago there. He has favourable as he's got pens, but if you want to move to Hugo, that he just seems like a great pick with those fixtures: Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, and even Fulham. There are questions about other Liverpool assets, Jossy, but we'll start with him because I think he's the one everyone's got their eye on. Last week we talked about this, and it was a very different circumstance. I think Danny and I were a bit more skeptical about it, and even maybe would have advised Bowen in the same sort of situation just because of the minutes and that sort of thing. But circumstances change, right? So, what do you think, Jossy? Have you got your eye on him?
No spoilers. Yeah, I have my eye on Ekitike. But
what you should have asked Rich is Ekitike going up in price this week?
Yeah, true.
And that's an affirmative. Look, I'm a bit frustrated with the way this has played out. I knew Ekitike was a great player. I'm a Liverpool fan. I watch him, and he was a great pick. But I shared the same view as you and Danny did, that he was going to miss some minutes over this festive period. But now that he's not going to miss many minutes over this festive period, now he has to be playing. He has to be starting every game. He has to be playing. He's probably going to be playing closer to 80 minutes a match now. But irrelevant, he's going to start, and he's got a great set of fixtures. I've heard some mumblings about will he now be on penalties. I don't think so. Gut feel, McAllister's likely to take the penalties. Even this week when Szoboszlai's out, I don't see. I had a little look at Ekitike's penalty record this week. He's taken 7 in his career, scored 3 of them.
Yeah.
And last season it was 3 that he'd taken for Frankfurt, and he only scored 1 of them. So he may be keen to take them, but I don't think he's very good at them. I don't think we want him to take them as owners. But yeah, Thiago. I mean, because obviously the question is about the move away from Thiago. It's a frustrating one. I'm someone who avoided Thiago for a long time, missed all his returns, got in on him at a fairly high price with some kind fixtures coming, and he's offering nothing. I think I read or heard last night on another pod that 0 XG from the last 2 games. He's had no involvement whatsoever. So yeah, he still has good fixtures to come. The question alludes to the fact that he has pens. Dango was winning a lot of those pens. Dango's no longer with us. He's away at AFCON. So will those dry up a little? Yeah, to be honest, at the moment, Ekitike is looking one of the most, I won't say essential, but he's one of the most important assets in the game right now. With that run of fixtures, an entry point into the Liverpool attack, with Salah not there, the primary attack and outlet now for Liverpool. I mean, he was even with Salah playing, to be fair. Primary attack and outlet for Liverpool for 8.8 million. Wolves up, Leeds up next. Yeah, it's hard to say no.
Yeah, it is, and no spoilers there. That's very, very impressive. I think the chat already is probably fairly like, this guy. There's no way this guy is going to wait until Monday to get his source. Danny, do you retain your skepticism from last week, or do you think the circumstances have changed? I mean, you're in a bit of a different predicament actually, because you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but Jossy would have had a fair few. Jossy, you came into the week with 4 transfers, is that right?
4 transfers, yeah, and 3.2 million in the bank.
Oh, okay. So
I was
quite flexible. You could have done anything really. You could have kept Thiago and gone for the extra forward there, or you could have switched it around probably.
Yeah, well, I could have done if I'd have waited long enough to know that Bruno was missing and done a double move, but at that stage.
But yeah, no, sorry, Danny. I was coming to you on that one.
No, it's absolutely fine. But I want to. It's funny how these messages come across, because I didn't have any skepticism of Ekitike, and I hope that, I know you know that, but I hope that the viewers know that as well, because the point was more about like how to view him versus other picks, and I think that is still kind of the same, but obviously it has definitely changed because of the Isak injury. And I was kind of just saying, I mean, we're using Bowen as the example, but I think there are one or two others that are very interesting actually, that for different reasons could well keep up with Ekitike and do as well, and maybe even do better. So I did really like the pick. I think what I'm going to say now and probably today is just to try and balance it out still a little bit, you know, because I don't think that it is just as simple as like he's essential or miles better than others, because I think there's just a lot of good picks, and it obviously does depend on what the other guys do. I mean, so with it in mind, for one, I just put one thing to the side so that it is really clear. So Ekitike is clearly a very good pick. If I could get him very easily this week without any trouble at all, I would. Just because, you know, the ownership, the potential, the fixtures are fantastic. It's a bit more difficult for me. Am I that bothered that I can't get him? No, not really. I would get him if I could easily. I'm not hugely bothered. I'll wait and see a little bit in terms of, probably anyway. We'll obviously talk about what I'm doing with my team. So, first of all, on Thiago, my only concern with Thiago, is if there is, and I can't remember. I know that it was mentioned. I think Mikey mentioned in the chat. I don't know. He was just sort of speculating as well whether there's any kind of underlying injury. And I'm not sure. I couldn't remember if I was like, it was one of those false memories or I dreamt it, that someone had sort of murmured there might have been. But I think maybe it was just speculation because I couldn't find anything myself. If there was any kind of underlying injury with, yeah, no, I'm going to come to that in a second. That message from Stefania, because I was thinking the same thing. If there's anything underlying with Thiago, that's a problem, you know, because that's a real stinker. That when someone's got good fixtures, you know, it's like the Mateta thing. It was like it was a trap that you're not able to see. You know, you own Mateta for 3, 4, 5 weeks through great fixtures, and then he's coming off on 58 minutes every single week, not really doing anything. And then you find out that he's got some kind of underlying injury, and it's the worst thing that can possibly happen to an FPL manager because we can't factor it in any way. All we can see is the player and the fixtures. I hope there's nothing underlying with Thiago. He did just play 90 minutes though, so there probably isn't. And I hope that there isn't. He hasn't had any shots or any XG. It was weird last game though. I watched the highlights, and Sade basically had like 2 of their big chances, and they were right where the number 9 should be. It was weird. It was a bit weird and a bit frustrating because Thiago was standing where Sade should be, on the sort of a little bit on the back post, just out of the way, instead of where Sade should be. So these sort of big chances that Brentford are famous for were still falling. It's just they didn't fall to Thiago at all. So if there's nothing wrong with Thiago, it's still a very solid pick with very good fixtures coming up. For a while, who got 90 minutes in the last game, so presumably he's going to carry on getting 90 minutes, although there's a caveat again there that he hasn't really played midweek fixtures, so I'm not sure he is I'm not sure he's a fitness monster, because he missed the midweek fixture with Henderson in the midweek, and I think Neil wrote a Scout article saying that he's never played him in a midweek game. So coming into the Christmas period, that could be a concern as well. I mean, another thing on Thiago, it was this is not the sort of thing that I factor into my decision process. So another caveat, this is not what I think about. But I heard someone mentioning that that number 9s are typically pretty good against Bournemouth, which is his next game. And I did have a look, and it is interesting. It is pretty like, oh Jesus, like we're talking, I don't know, Callum Wilson got his brace against Bournemouth, Mateta got his hat-trick against Bournemouth, Haaland hauled against Bournemouth like he does against everyone. Thiago himself scored against Bournemouth. I was going through the fixtures and it was like, Jesus, it was every game the number 9s were battering Bournemouth. So that's his next fixture, which might be a little bit. Again, this is just something that's like, if you're hanging on to Thiago, something to hang on and think about. So basically, you know, a part of this discussion is another thing that I always say is it's not who it's who you own. It's not who you don't own. And so you always look at it in terms of a pair and what it looks like, and that's kind of what's optimal and stuff, if you like. Like if you're keeping Thiago, you can probably get a very good midfielder, or just just spend a little bit more on a very good midfielder, or another pair, or another person, or another defender, and you've still got this guy who is a very good pick, who ultimately just needs to get a return, score a goal. Again, when you think about the difference, Ekitike, yes, he could easily go off. He is a beast of a player. He could easily go off and brace in the next 2 games, but that is about worst case scenario. He braces in the next 2 games and someone like Thiago doesn't even score. He just needs to get a return here or there, and that's pretty good. That's a good, solid option who you can keep. And as I say, in combination with others, is very good, very solid. Someone mentioned in the chat just then about Ekitike. I did think that. The other thing to just add on, again, as another little thing to think about, just to sort of balance out a bit, is Liverpool haven't been good. Right? Before we talk about Ekitike as an individual, they haven't been good. Don't get me wrong. It's nice what they're doing. They've got this back to basics approach. They've been more solid. They're getting some results, which is great for Liverpool fans. But they don't look good, and they look scared, and they don't look like they really have a plan. The plan is basically like be organised, be tight, and kind of use your players on a to sort of create a bit of magic. I mean, they didn't really do much at all against Spurs. So it's not like they're going into games trying to rip people apart. They're going into games trying not to lose. And that's been very evident over the last 3 or 4. And then Ekitike himself, obviously, he's scoring some goals, which is fantastic. He didn't really do anything against Spurs. He scored a great header, which is arguable whether it should have counted or not. But I think he had 0.27 XGI or something. He didn't do anything else all game. And he did also look... one thing, again, to add with Ekitike is we don't know what it looks like for him over the tighter schedule. I don't know if it's worth you just getting up that Lego Mane graph for a second, Rich. It's probably worth it now to visualize this. But he looked, it might have been nothing, but he was holding his thigh a lot in that Spurs game. He was sort of stretching, and thighs were it was a bit like, oof. I think was chatting to Baker or something again during the game. We were like, Ekitike looks injured here. It was just before he scored, I think. He just literally got into the box straight after that. So you don't really know what his body's like in terms of playing more minutes and playing every week, because it looked a bit tight to me. It looked a bit precarious. This is just something, and again, this wouldn't stop you from buying someone. So this is, because you just don't know. You better to get on board and get than sort of not be with it. But it could be that he can't play all the games, and it could be that he even, who knows, might even be an injury there, a muscle injury. But if we look here, I mean, it looks very good. So Liverpool at the top here on this graph by Lego Mane in terms of the days between games. It looks very good at the moment for the next 2, which is the crucial thing. They've got a nice big break before Wolves, and then they've got a decent break before Leeds at home. But then it's Fulham away, 2 days later? 2 days break? Red zone, and then it's Arsenal. So I would still be pretty surprised if he gets excellent minutes through the 3 of those games through to Fulham. That point still stands for me because of his body, because of he's not used to this league as well. Suddenly Premier League Christmas time, game every 3 days at the pace that we play at. So I would be very surprised if we could see a 70 minutes, a 70 minutes, and a 70. We could see 70, 70, 70, which would be very good, I think. If you do think he's going to start Fulham, but we could just see good minutes, and then not play Fulham. Or something like that, because he's got Arsenal after that, so he's got to play Arsenal after that, which is another sort of relatively short break. So there's a lot there, but I'm just kind of spewing a lot of my thoughts in terms of just balancing out a little bit. Ekitike is clearly a very good pick, great player, stupidly confident. All the things I said about him last week, ridiculously confident, and that's what you want. Arrogant. I mean, he really doesn't give a shit. This guy, does he? But Thiago is still a good pick. And so I do like keeping Thiago as well in general at the moment until we see something that really says otherwise. But yeah, Rich, what are you thinking?
Yeah, this is another one where, and thank you, by the way, for the chat for helping write out all sorts of phonetics in the chat to clarify. I've heard it said about 3 or 4 different ways, but George seems clearest enough with Ekitike. So I'm going to go with that and then speed it up the longer I go on. But yeah, I agree with you, Danny. I think I've been in a situation. I mean, we've all probably been frantically on the FPL planner apps over the last couple of days, whether it was Saturday night or Sunday afternoon or whatever it is, working all the different permutations. And I think it's fair to say that most people are in a little bit of a conundrum as to, whether they can retain this sort of 3 forward structure easily enough. And in my case, and in a lot of other managers' case, the only way of making that work relatively easily is to sell Saka as well. So there's a little bit of a if you are very keen on Ekitike, it's whether you are whether you're more worried about not owning Saka or more worried about not owning Thiago, and I'm probably falling into that kind of mentality. I think whether that's right or wrong, there's a little bit of a thought process going on there. And of course, Saka is another conversation we'll need to have, actually. There's no questions about it here, but we'll come across that when it comes to options, perhaps a little bit later on. But yeah, definitely, if there is a temptation to move from one to the other there, it wouldn't be because of Thiago. I'm not particularly fussed by that kind of lack of form. If it continues for a stretch of games, and they've got another 2 great games in a row, haven't they? They've got Bournemouth at home and Spurs at home. 2 of the easiest fixtures at home in the league. You tend to think it is odd, isn't it? Really, that I think if Ekitike had 2 more troublesome fixtures at the same time, we would all be taking a watching brief. It is purely that Wolves is slap bang as the next fixture that people are getting very, very hot and heavy about it. So I think it is that kind of situation there. So, Danny, you're going to take a watching brief for a game or 2. Is it something that you think down the line you might change your mind on, or is it fairly?
No, yeah. I mean, as I said, if I could move easily to Ekitike, I would at the moment because of the 2 ridiculous fixtures. He's very, very good. And you feel very confident about him getting some goals in these next 2, which is great. It's not worth a hit for me at the moment. I'd still rather wait. So therefore, I'm probably not going to do it. And I'll get an extra transfer next week, which will get me another 2 after dealing with Bruno. So then I can get Ekitike if I want. And obviously, we're then 1 game down, though. We're then that sort of really significant fixture down. And again, your perspective changes a little bit there. Yeah, because we get closer. Then as I say, that we've then got 1 good game, which is Leeds, which is a very good game. But I mean, Leeds are very good at the moment. And then a game where he might miss it, so it's really difficult. You've got to be really patient and sort of like, I don't know, objective. You've got to sort of refresh your way of thinking all the time. And I'm looking at players like Wirtz this week for the same reason, because I'm going, okay, I'm not excited by Wirtz like I am Ekitike. And I'm probably not going to go there. But again, being really objective, looking at routes to points, looking at minutes, I'm more confident in his minutes. He's doing very well for DEFCON because he gets so many recoveries. He is bubbling a bit. He's starting to do the points. He's starting to be the best player. You expect him to get assists and stuff. He doesn't have to do much. It's a bit like going in with Declan Rice. I mean, he is actually doing the points. Those sort of things where, and you can keep the structure maybe. It's much easier to move off of Wirtz or someone like that, or whether it's Szoboszlai if you're happy to have him instead of Ekitike. Because Ekitike is a big commitment, like you said. It's changing quite a lot of structure. It makes future things more difficult. And you mentioned Saka, which is absolutely true. And one of the appeals of Saka for me is the additional option of the switch to Palmer. Because getting to 22 again, it's far ahead. 22. I don't really want to think too much about it, and I don't generally think that far ahead because anything can happen. I mean, I do, but not really. Sort of making transfers about it. But you get to 22 and everyone's still as fit as they are. Palmer's playing every game. You are not going without Palmer. Like it is 100%. You can forget any thought or wish or want or whatever you're thinking about because it's bonkers nonsense. The fixtures are absurd. So you're gonna get Palmer. So there are those sort of things to think about. Just one thing on Wolves. I just want to mention Wolves really quickly because it is an interesting. And again, I'm not expecting anything, but obviously this is the fixture for Liverpool this week, and I certainly wouldn't factor this in. But Jesus, like, did you see the Matt Doherty interview?
I've heard about it, but no, I haven't watched it. Jossy?
Yes, same. No, I'd heard, but I haven't seen it.
It was very, very good. But he said something quite profound, and I think that's really important to think about because he said something that to me, because when you've got players who are fucking about or people are demotivated or some not doing they're all over the place, they're not motivated, they're not turning up for work. It's very difficult to turn that round, and one of the only things you can do to turn that sort of thing around is say something really quite profound and something that you can't. He offered a really sort of interesting question where the answer to the question can only be an absolute fact or a truth. It can only be something that really brings something very real out of someone. I'm not going to go into the details of what that means psychologically, but it's quite profound. It can have quite a big impact. And he asked, "What do we want to be remembered for? What do we want what these fans for the club to actually remember us for? Like, this is what's going on." I mean, he was almost crying, and it's a brilliant thing to say because that's really important. Where you can imagine him just going into the dressing room and asking that sort of thing, like, guys, You know, I mean, we've got fans of this club. We are fucked. You know, we are going down. Some of us might be leaving in January, but what the fuck do you want people to remember us for? Is this what you want? Is this what you want us to? Do you know what I mean? That's a choice for the players there, where you've got to go, Jesus, you know what? He's right. And you can make a choice. And the players, I think, are going to have to make some kind of choice. Now, obviously, they're crap. And obviously, I still expect them to sort of generally get beaten up. But I really think that if we can see any sort of, because, you know, any sort of effort and sort of anything, it should be off the back of what Matt Doherty said in that interview. And some players should stand up, because that's when you realise that life's more important than just trying to find your next club or a bit of money and stuff. Like, what are we doing out here? So, again, a little 0.5% of my hope in going into this game without the Liverpool attack is like, can Wolves actually turn up a little bit? You know, they managed to defend well away at Arsenal and stuff, didn't they? But it would be good if they could really turn up and try. I mean, you know, Liverpool are not good at the moment in attack, you know, so I don't know. Obviously, it's hardly even worth saying, because nothing changes that it's a fantastic fixture. But I thought the Doherty interview was pretty important. So, but yeah, can't remember what we're talking about now. Sorry, Rich.
No, not at all. I mean, actually, I'm not going to take it too far into this direction, but actually, you know, it is one of those situations. It's been very difficult, as anyone can imagine. Not that anyone really sympathises with us, but as a West Ham fan lately, watch the relegation scrap as is sort of going from bad to worse. Really, it's one of those seasons where you know, a perfectly reasonable sort of lower mid-table team on paper, well, probably should be, will just slide into oblivion. And I think we're in that kind of situation, unfortunately, at the moment, because it doesn't help sometimes when there's a team like Wolves who are doing so badly. You need them to take the odd point off of someone to kind of help out. But unfortunately, Leeds' home form is, and FPL FOMO, if he's knocking about, will be quite pleased about this. But it's not looking great at the moment, to be honest with you. Hopefully a bit of a spend up in January, maybe, something like that. Actually, do you know what? Let's pivot to that and come back to the midfield questions. There is a question about Bowen, and I do think we have talked about him a little bit here, about the idea of whether you'd move Thiago to Bowen with the spare Bruno cash, and that comes in from East West Tiger. And there is a note there down the bottom of the page about whether we move to 3 forwards, but we'll come to that a bit later. Bowen as an option. I mean, what do you think, Jossy? Sorry, I'll let you come in here, because I know it's something that you can do this week for free, can't you?
Yeah, it's something I've considered. Earlier in the week, because I was getting itchy feet on Thiago anyway, and I was thinking, look, if he lets me down against Wolves and he's showing nothing, I might be looking at maybe moving him on. And I did, prior to the Isaac injury, I was probably predisposed to look at Bowen a little bit more because of those minutes and because of the talisman nature of the player and the fact that his goals are probably worth more than 4 points. And so, yeah, I'm still interested. I mean, you always say beware of fans, but I'd be interested in your view. I mean, is it because you watch them more than we do? Is he getting plenty of chances despite the malaise of West Ham?
Well, actually, I don't know whether Danny, you would be fairly fresh off of the extended highlights, and that's all I caught this week. Because to be honest, with a match like Man City, you know, there is a fair amount of you that's like, it's just a case of how many is it? That's why I triple captain and tripled up on City, right? But yeah, Bowen actually looked very lively in that game. He's getting more shots off recently than he has been. Actually, if you look at the table, I haven't got it to hand here, but this time last week I was looking at Cunha because I was trying to work out how I was going to get him in, and as it turns out, it's been handed to me on a plate, really. But Cunha has been top for shots off in the last 3 games that he'd played in, because he'd missed the 4th one back. And then actually, I think it was Ekitike has been just behind him. But Bowen is in the top 3 or 4 for that list as well. He's been getting more and more shots off. He's looking live. He's moving more into central positions, because obviously they lack a striker that can make 90 minutes. I mean, actually, they've put an inquiry in for Strand Larsen, haven't they, this week, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I wouldn't put you off at all. I if I could have that instead of an extra midfielder at the moment with ease, I would do that myself. So yeah, no grumbles at all. As it turns out, it's quite awkward to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, which is the option, and we'll come to that later. We'll talk about teams later.
But the team form, well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's not the player. The player's great. Everyone loves him. Blah blah blah. He's not. His finishing is largely very good. I mean, obviously he doesn't get many chances. That's the difficulty for him.
Yeah,
but,
and it's relatively expensive for a relegation battling striker.
No, that's fine.
I mean, his goal share is obviously fantastic, and the fixtures are great. So
but they're also they're good now, aren't they? But they do improve even a couple of weeks down the line, I think, from memory. So there's no absolute rush, is there? What is it? Fulham at home, isn't it? I mean, it is very good, to be fair. Danny, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about it now in my head. I think my stake is still the same as it was last week, actually. And again, there's more time passes because it's difficult. I was basically saying like, how much difference is there going to be between him and say Ekitike in the next few? I don't know if that's changed all that much yet. And it's nice to hear you that sort of positive about it. But, it's funny how it changes so much when all Bowen did was blank against Man City. And all Ekitike did was score from a 0.27 XGI in a game against which probably shouldn't have counted, or maybe 50-50 against a rubbish team in Spurs, and everyone's just gone way like, whoa, my God, Ekitike, and Bowen is just like so uncool. Nobody's buying Bowen that I can see on Twitter right now. But again, you look at it and you go, Fulham at home, Brighton at home, and then in the game that Ekitike is either not going to start or is going to be injured for, or is going to play 45 minutes for, Bowen's got Wolves away, which is about as good as you can possibly get. And then he obviously goes into Forest at home, Spurs, Sunderland at home. I mean, it's just incredible run of fixtures. And you know what? I mean, I've not watched West Ham as much as obviously you, Rich. So it's nice to hear you sort of a little bit positive about the player. And my feeling before this week was that West Ham are getting a bit better, as you would hope and want. I mean, I'm not saying enough to sort of stay up, but I was suddenly seeing a team that, they're actually creating chances here and they look pretty good. And they were like good against Villa, probably shouldn't have lost the game. One of the things that that sort of jumps out at me every time I watch, and again, this is just me like seeing bits and picking up a kind of feeling and that kind of information. And Rich, you correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but Somerville is someone who is a problem. Like he's hard to deal with, and I think I quite like that for Bowen. And he's just like, he's really aggressive, carries the ball, runs with the ball. He's fast, he's skillful, and I feel like that's good for Bowen. Rich, what go on?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you mentioned him. He's so first of all, by the way, on Somerville, because it's worth mentioning this, not an FPL pick. Just to clarify that, I know that everyone should know that by now. He's about 5'5", I think, isn't he? But he can't finish his dinner. He's terrible from that point of view. I think he's he's a sort of poor man Sterling, kind of similar. Because he had a decent enough goal record at Leeds, certainly in the Championship, but Premier League level and at West Ham, I think he's only scored once. It's pretty pathetic. He's obviously had a lot of injuries and so on. He does cause a lot of problems, though. As you say, he basically runs directly, and that is really, really something that West Ham don't have. Aside from him, they don't have any pace on the wings or anything like that. The biggest problem and of course, winning penalties. So I know that Paquetá has been mentioned. We can talk about that in just a second. He can do that. He's probably the only player in the squad who can realistically do a dango, basically, and kind of run in and get tripped up, blah, blah, blah. The problem I would have at the moment is just that they've lost a fair amount in progression. Not that it was great anyway, because, of course, both fullbacks have gone to AFCON. I know that everyone knows this by now. I don't think they're part of teams who will necessarily get to the final anyway, right? Trying to remember who they play for. Actually, no, Juve does play for a team that may well get towards the final. So there is that. So they have lost something there. They're playing with three centre-backs rarely, none of which are great at progressing the ball forward and that sort of thing. So it's a few problems, but the quality of fixtures and Bowen's quality, etc., I definitely wouldn't be putting anyone off. Actually, one of my reasons for doing the transfer route that I'm going to do, unless someone persuades me tonight, this afternoon, is partly because I want the option on that next week or the week after, etc. Because if I do another thing, it will ruin that ability to get Bowen, and it's something I want to have the option to, because I can't do it this week. But yeah, definitely one. Quick word on Paquetá. I don't like it. He hasn't got an assist in 18 months. Very little open play threat. Somewhat petulant. Good player, but just no, don't do it. Anyway, okay.
It's good to know, because I was thinking similar about Paquetá, and you know, he's someone who, for example, I'm pretty sure is and expect to sort of creep up on models and stuff, just with their incredible run of fixtures and the sort of, I don't know, underlines, if you like, and obviously bit of DEFCON, bit of this, bit of that, and I'm not that keen either. So it feels like these sort of, any of these spots that we're talking about are quite expensive at the moment, in the sense of like all the guys that we feel really good about now, that, like, for example, Dewsbury Hall is injured, or at least this is probably me speaking for myself, but they're all like 7 million at least. I can't really think of anyone at the moment that you don't feel happy with any of these cheap guys. And I think this relates to the point as well, actually, at the bottom. So we might as well segue. I know we've got other questions we'll come back to, but just to segue to that question at the bottom, I think for me, around that exact same point is why I'm leaning towards thinking it's a 4 at the back, which is where I've obviously moved my team. You know, but because of these, I don't really see these midfielders. Say Dewsbury Hall's gone, don't feel great about Minte. I know you own him, Rich, and maybe you do, Jossy. I can't remember.
We both do. We don't love it, but yeah, we'll come to that. So
we've got these guys, and then we've got Harry Wilson, who, like Alan says on FML, like we never know when he's going to turn into Warry Hilson, which could happen at any moment. Made me laugh that. But obviously he's got like 2 or 3 good fixtures, and then they get pretty bad. They're pretty shocking, actually. I say all this. He's 50% owned and he's playing tonight, isn't he? That could be a nightmare. But
no, 50.
Yeah, 45% owned and he's playing tonight. Absolute nightmare. So whereas there's just the defenders feel really solid. A lot of the defenders feel good at the moment. So, you know, Everton defender, Liverpool defender, you know, I don't even can't remember. I've got O'Reilly, obviously Arsenal, Timber looking great last night. It feels to me that because of that broader point, that it's pretty much I don't feel great about anyone who's less than 7 million. I think it's a 4 at the back, whether you go 4-3-3 or even 4-5-1 or 4-4-2. Don't know what you boys think.
Yeah, I'm just a quick note on this. I mean, if I had enough maneuverability, it'd probably be a 4-3-3. And my reasoning is that I honestly, at the moment, only like 3 fit midfielders in the game. I felt that way last week, more or less, and you know, Bruno basically replacing Cunha in our kind of thoughts, but I just don't like anyone else. It's so difficult to pick a good additional midfielder at the moment, especially this week. So I think for those of you who can get away with a 4 or 5 at the back this week, it's a good week to do it. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I really don't. I look at all the options that are just don't like it at all. Until AFCON has passed. I mean, like, we've got a draft later. As I said to the chat earlier on, FPL draft a bit later on, and picking a good midfielder at the moment is near on a nightmare. You're almost tempted to stack it with a couple of AFCON midfielders, just because at least you're going to get someone good in the long run.
My only sort of thing in like indecision in that area of whether it's a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2, which is difficult. And another reason why I quite like waiting a week this week to sort of get what information we can is, like, first of all, it's what those options are. So, for example, more forwards are becoming options, which opens up the 3 up front. You know, it's not just Bowen and Ekitike and hopefully Thiago, but even someone like Voltemada, who is looking much better now, very, very good. You know, Newcastle, I think, are on the upturn. I mean, he looks really good at the moment. But it's hard to picture what it looks like in 4 weeks, because, as I say, if you say sort of 4 weeks-ish or whatever it is, go to roughly what we talked about, Gameweek 22. You've got Saka, who we might not have. I don't know, because I still feel like Saka is underperforming. I still believe in Saka. I still think that. I mean, it's a difficult one because it's a sort of separate conversation. But I do think he's better with Ben White. I think Timber's a bit of a problem for Saka, but yet he still looks like he's going to score every week. I still sort of believe in him. I find it quite hard to move off that price point and that player. But you've got Saka. We'll talk about Cunha in a minute, who I think is a brilliant pick. You've got people like Soboslai and stuff maybe, and you've got but Palmer, as we mentioned, Palmer, and then obviously I would expect around that time Bruno comes back. Bruno is going to miss a good few game weeks, but I would think, a month tops he's going to miss. And I mean, when Bruno comes back, we're going to need to get Bruno in as well. So it's just, what does that look like long term in terms of the structure? Because that's why I'm finding it difficult. The idea of moving 3 up top is suddenly you've got 3 midfielders spaces for Foden, Bruno, Cunha, Liverpool, Saka, Palmer. It's a lot. It's a lot, and you could just say, right, well, I know. You could just say, for example, you could commit to, for example, just selling Saka for Palmer when you want to go there, leave that price point there for that reason. See what I mean, etc., etc. Whereas with the 3 up top, it's a little bit more like one of them drops off. I feel like one of them drops off, and you feel like it's a real shaky formation. Like if Thiago is just crap and you want to get rid, or you know what I mean. I'm struggling with that at the moment. What that looks like, I'm struggling.
I'll hand to Jossy in just a second, but I think one of our problems, and okay, so I'm in a scenario later on, I'll paint it out, where could easily spend an extra transfer this week, but I'm going to sort of leave off this week with 2 in hand and then build up to 3 and that sort of thing. And the reason is that, okay, so there are only 2 or 3 players in the game who you would buy even if the fixtures were shocking, because you want them in your team and you want to plug them in for the long haul and that sort of thing. One of them is Bruno and one of them is Gabriel. And we're in a situation soon where hopefully, fingers crossed, we can't plan around it exactly at the moment. But in a few weeks' time, I'd like to believe that we might be in a scenario where we can get them both and leave them there as per normal. And I'd rather be in a scenario where that's relatively straightforward. So that is a little bit playing on my mind. And of course, as you say, the Saka Palmer thing is another one. Jossy, sorry, did you want to put your oar in when it comes to the formation or the structure going forward? Have you thought about it much? Is that one of the reasons why you're holding back on going straight to Bowen, etc.? Mute.
You're on mute, Jossy.
I was trying to be kind.
You know what, we talked about this at the start of the pod about normally I'm on it, unmuting myself.
It's my fault.
It's one of the things that I've struggled with this week and why I may hold off. So I now I've got a few quid in the bank, no spoilers, but and I can choose to put that into midfield. I can choose to put that up front, but I'm not sure I want to commit to it at this stage. It's tricky, as you say. I looked at, when I had a little bit of extra money, what could I do with Minte? And I've got the wealth of midfield options, or at least I've got the freedom to choose from all of the midfield options, and there's no one. Sade was the one that I was kind of landing on, but it doesn't inspire. Rodgers is obviously hot topic at the moment because he's flying, he's on fire. But I'm not going to invest in that with the next couple of fixtures coming up, even if his price did go up. So it's tricky, and I think you're right. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. I want to ensure that there's money in the bank to get straight back to Gabriel when he's back, and that's probably a couple of weeks away at the latest, I would hope. So look, I'm not wedded to a formation, to be honest. I think there's a lot of value in those defenders. I think we can get some good quality defenders. I think we can get a nice back four without it being super expensive. O'Reilly cost me around 5 million. You talked about Everton defence. I think Keane's obviously offering a lot of value there. We'll have one at Arsenal. And maybe then we try and get towards a double up with Gabriel, unless you've got Raya and you're painting ceilings. So I'm not wedded to one formation, but I take Danny's point that, and we'll talk about it when we get to teams. I could go quite heavy on the front line, to be honest, and it's something that tempts me, but but then you'd feel locked in and you'd feel like your funds were kind of pulled away from. Traditionally, I'd rather spend more money in midfield because that's where extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet, much more call potential, but the options have dried up a little bit. The one thing I actually looked at earlier this week is that I could have gone immediately from Bruno to Palmer, and then I'd have had Palmer and Saka in the same midfield. But I just felt it was too early. I can't trust him over this period at the moment.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that in a second. Well, we may as well go to this midfielder set of dilemmas then. And Palmer is one of the options that people have asked about. FPL FOMO has asked whether it's too early to risk going to Palmer. I'm just going to, just a quick disclaimer, because a lot of it goes in and around Cunha. I mean, we talked about him last week, and I did a fair amount of digging on him. I was already getting sweaty palms thinking about him all week, to be honest with you, like one way or another. Before the Isak injury and the Bruno injury and everything else, he was definitely coming in. All roads were leading to Rome in that regard. Afterwards, none of that was going to distract me from getting him, and I'm guessing Danny feels very, very similar. So it's the cards on the table here. Regardless of the havoc that it's going to have on Manchester United's lineup for the next week, there was absolutely no way on earth I was going without him going into certainly next week, but probably this week as well. But lots of questions here. Let's just sum them up all in one, and we'll try and do it together. Who to replace Bruno with? Man United are depleted. Rodgers has poor fixtures. Maybe Wirtz. That's from FPL Sally, who I believe is watching along. Hello, Sally. Is it too risky to go straight to Palmer? Is Mount an option? I'll come to you for that, Danny. And then Pep says Bruno to Bruno, which I'm assuming is Guimaraes. Don't know how to say that either. We'll come to that a bit later. Anyway, what do you think, Danny? I mean, up to you if you want to tackle one thing at a time here, but what entered your thoughts as soon as, well, the Bruno conundrum came up, I suppose?
Yeah, well, similar to you, really. I mean, I called the title of the thumbnail on the pod something about priorities, top priorities, because I think that's obviously pretty relevant at the moment in terms of what path people take and what other. And it's important to think about that in your head, isn't it? In terms of where people are as a level, like who do you want first? Because certainly, for the case for me, it sounds like it's the case for you. If you tick off someone maybe that you want first, it means you can't have the other one either now or maybe for a week or two. So it is about priorities. And Cunha, I think, was and still is the priority for me. More so than Ekitike and more so than Bowen et al. The difference is he is a talisman now, especially even more so a talisman. I'm just checking that Lego Mane figure quickly on here while I'm thinking about United's fixtures. It's not too bad. Okay, so we've got a bit of a red right at the end. Yeah, I mean, Cunha, he did look, I mean, I know I've heard the first bit of above average earlier, and they said the same thing. It's the same thing I was thinking. Like, he did look, there was a little bit of like he relished. You could see that he knew he was the main man. I mean, he wants to be anyway. We've been saying this for weeks about Cunha just trying a bit too hard. But I mean, people are saying, so United without Bruno. It's true. This is definitely a blow for United, right? But we have seen Cunha in a rubbish team, do incredibly well. And United as a whole team. This is the kind of thing about the Bruno falling out at this moment in time. Even 6 weeks ago, I think that would have been pretty devastating for us. But Man United at the moment do look like they are sort of figuring things out a bit. They're figuring the system out a bit. I know they lost to Villa, but they didn't deserve to lose. They've been playing pretty well in most games. A big thing about the difference between last week and next week is obviously Casemiro was missing against Villa. He's probably, arguably this most important player, alongside Bruno, is pretty much the most important player for our team at the moment, Casemiro. So he comes back. And I think we've got enough. I think we've got enough going on there at the moment with everyone else and the way the team is going to facilitate Cunha in doing what Cunha does best. Obviously, I would be pretty certain that he will take penalties now. I mean, people have talked about people like Mount. Mount does like a penalty, apparently, so maybe he steps up. I think Cunha will ask for it. I think Cunha will want it. He's had one penalty for United and missed it already, hasn't he? This season. But so you add penalties. You take away Bruno, but you add penalties. You add even more to the minutes a little bit, and you add a little bit of spice in the "I'm the main man" syndrome. He really likes to be the main man. He wants to be the don. Like, he knows he is an absolute god of football. He knows he is. So, I mean, he should have equalised against Villa as well. He missed a sitter of a header, so he did get that big chance as well in the second half still. And what have they got? We've got Newcastle at home, and then we've got, I can't remember now, but it's a couple of very good fixtures. And is it Wolves and Wolves at home, Leeds away, and then Burnley away. So really good 4 fixtures. So he was in my thinking as the priority, Cunha. Now, just for a second, just quickly, that's to one side. It's what do you do around that? Again, so we've already talked about the strikers. Rodgers, I don't know, we can talk about it. It still doesn't appeal to me that much. He's obviously a great pick, and he's obviously gone up a bit of a level, but I'm not sure he's an output merchant, really. The interesting ones are Wirtz and also Szoboszlai. So it's talking to Jossy as well about that, because I do think Szoboszlai, I mean, obviously the biggest question is Bradley fit? I can't remember or know where he's up to. I don't actually know where he's up to. Find that out in a second from you boys. But it just says he's had a knock on the app. Obviously, he is now crucial to the Szoboszlai thing, because we don't want to buy Szoboszlai and he goes right back. If Bradley's fit and he is playing, I expect his minutes to be very good. And he still is, to me, a bit of an output merchant. His set pieces and his penalties until and if Salah comes back. So with these Liverpool fixtures, and he's obviously cheap, he is like, 6.5 or something. I don't know what he is, something like that, doesn't he? Not even looked. But that allows a lot. The reason why I'm just sort of pausing a little bit on Szoboszlai is because everyone's a bit like, he hasn't actually done anything for the last couple of weeks. Then he's been banned. He's missing Wolves. He only got 1 pointer. So everyone's sort of gone off the boil, haven't they? But I actually think, trying to be really objective, Szoboszlai still looks like the one to me in midfield, probably, outside of Cunha. Yeah, what do you reckon, Jossy?
I still haven't 100% got on board with Szoboszlai as a pick. I think part of it is that frustration of whether he dropped in and out of positions. Our right backs can't stay fit for 5 minutes, and there is always a risk that even if Bradley does come back, that he's out again. Frimpong's back at the moment, and he did look good when he came on. But the right backs are constantly injured, and he keeps forcing them back into right back.
He does. He looks a bit passive at the moment, Szoboszlai, doesn't he? That is my one thing. He looks a bit passive. He doesn't look like he wants to take the game by the scruff of the neck.
Hasn't historically been an output merchant, and I know, taking on board what you've been saying in recent pods and recent weeks, that he does seem to have stepped up a level, and he's trying to take that mantle a little bit more. I think for his price, he's a perfectly fine pick. I'm not that excited about him as a pick personally. Maybe it's a little bit of a Liverpool bias. I don't know. I'm nervous on the Wirtz thing again. He has stepped up. He looks like he's improving. He's settling in. He was very good the other night. He's doing really well for the baseline bonus as well. So if he does get anything, if he chips in with an assist, I think he's got a really good shout at picking up a decent bonus. As you said, he's doing he's picking up because of the DEFCON. So hopefully he can start. But again, it's his price. He needs to deliver quite a bit. When you look at what else, and I suppose we have said there's only so many options in the midfield at the moment. There's a bit of a dearth of options. Definitely worth a short-term punt, one of the two of them for this short run of fixtures. I think there's definitely some scope there. Probably dependent on how many fixtures you've got in your pocket. Because I can't, like you touched on a minute ago, Richie, about Bruno, who generally at least you can put in your team and not worry about it, and leave him for a couple of months, probably till the end of the season. I don't feel, at least at this stage, that confident that I'd be putting Wirtz or Szoboszlai in my team and leaving them for a couple of months. I feel like I'd probably get nervy on them. But yeah, I mean, great to attack this next one of fixtures.
This is what's all going into why Cunha is also a priority, isn't it? Because we're struggling so much with these midfield options, and you want to fill one of these holes with someone you feel really good about, because we have to fill all the holes. So that, that's a bit like what we're saying with snip that one. That's like what we're saying with Thiago, isn't it? He does fill a hole, and he fills it nicely, fills it very well. Stop it, Rich. So Cunha. I mean, I'm looking around at these other picks, right? I mean, Gordon is someone. Will you stop making me laugh, Rich? Gordon is someone I wish we could pick. What is going on with his minutes? Like, he looks like an amazing pick at the moment in terms of what you would want in midfield, doesn't he? But he is not getting more than 70 minutes, so I don't want him. You've got Wirtz, who, just like you said, it's not that exciting, but I think he is good. He is decent. You've got Szoboszlai again. The reason why I'm falling on Szoboszlai is because of those set pieces and penalties. I think you can go in with some kind of comfort.
Yeah.
Sharda as well. Look, we mentioned Sharda. It's worth mentioning because there aren't many players to mention. I do like Sharda because the pedigree's there, the minutes are there. He's playing up front with Thiago. He was the one in getting the Thiago positions in the last game. And so it doesn't matter that he hasn't scored, because it will come. He's got the pedigree, he's got the minutes, and they get the big chances. And he's got Bournemouth at home, Spurs at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home, Chelsea, Forest at home. Brilliant fixtures. I don't mind that at all. A lot of people, it's not fashionable because he hasn't done the points, but there really isn't many to choose from. I don't like Bruno G at all, never have.
No.
Rodgers is underwhelming. The thing about Rodgers is he's a fantastic player. But am I remotely surprised if he blanks 5 games in a row? Not at all. So this is why it is really difficult. We're all sort of waiting. That's why I also like keeping Saka there, for example, because yes, he's expensive, but I do feel good about him generally, better than the rest. We're all sort of waiting for Palmer. We were also happy and comfortable with Bruno, and now waiting for him to come back. It is not much of a list to choose from, which is why for me Cunha is the priority. And I'm just thinking, looking ahead to next week. Another reason with the Szoboszlai, last thing I'll say there is, he is cheap, and I do think sometimes you have to put some money into. He doesn't have to do much, Szoboszlai, to turn it into points. I mean, if they get free kicks, you expect him to take it, and you expect him to come very close to scoring it. He's going to put a lot of crosses in. He's going to take a lot of set pieces. If they get a penalty, he's going to take it and score. He's probably pretty decent for DEFCON. It doesn't take a lot for Szoboszlai to suddenly start getting points. So there's a comfort blanket there in terms of moving in on him, rather than even someone like a Wirtz, where there are maybe fewer avenues.
And it's a good point you make, because when I was considering this week, I had the funds there to go from Bruno to Palmer, with Cunha obviously being the more obvious choice. And the more I thought about it, Palmer's got to go some to outscore Cunha to justify £2.5 million. And don't get me wrong, Palmer's a great pick, and I think when those fixtures come around, as you rightly say, we'll be there. But right now, when I can't be 100% certain he's going to start every game, he's got to score some points to justify that price difference. When you think of what you could do, putting that into the defence or maybe another striker.
And one thing last to say, Rich, for me, on this point of the midfield, is another player that we haven't mentioned yet. And I think the reason why someone like Szoboszlai is relevant, because it's a bit cheaper and allows you to think about a Bowen or an Ekitike or wherever you want to go, is Semenyo. So he was like, I think he was 42% owned this week. So he's owned by a lot of players, and he's a good pick. Generally, he's a good player. He's a good pick. He's just scored. He started to bubble into the points again. He scored against United. He scored against Burnley. He's got Brentford away next. Now, the thing with Semenyo, obviously, is So he's got Brentford away and then Chelsea away. Now, again, so people might move off him because, again, something like him to Szoboszlai frees up quite a bit of money. Semenyo has got this clause, 65 million quid. I feel, based on everything I'm reading and hearing, I feel certain now that he's going to sign for somebody at the start of January.
Yep.
Apparently, he doesn't want to wait. His clause for 65 million is actually only valid for the first 10 days of January. I don't know if you know that, but it's only the first 10 days. So it's going to happen quickly. And, you know, I feel like he's already obviously negotiating it. So he'll be picking his team. Now, people are talking about whether it's Liverpool. It's going to be quite interesting where he goes to in terms of what you want to do, because so if you're confident that he's going to go to one of these teams, you then look at this team and you look at the fixtures and you think, what does it look like? Because you might even want to keep him. So if he goes to City, I think he's pretty much a non-option. Yep. If he goes to Liverpool, it's pretty interesting. It's interesting, at least. It's something. I think obviously Gakpo's injured and people are injured. But I don't think that by that point the fixtures aren't great. I'll have to remind myself in a second, but that's obviously after the good fixtures. If he goes to United, that's also quite interesting. I think we need someone like that at the moment. He'd probably go, because he's the sort of guy who's going to pretty much, you know, he's fit, he's a good boy. He's probably going to go into a team straight away unless it's Man City. But the only thing is with him is you would think almost certainly that he'll miss at least one game. This is the big problem. I can't see him with the fixtures being so tight. I can't see him moving to another club and not missing at least one game. One thing about that is I'm looking at the games now, and it's Arsenal on the 3rd of January. And that's the game I would expect him to miss, is whatever is that weekend. If I do expect him to move to another club, which I do. So in terms of being at Bournemouth or whatever, I mean, see what I'm saying? It's a problem, basically. He becomes a kind of an interesting pick, but if you're going to keep him, I think he's going to miss one game at least, because I do think he's going to move.
Yeah, if you have him, it's a really handy hold, isn't it? This Brentford fixture is a really handy one, because you could have justified, if you'd had 5 free transfers and everything was rosy, moving it on now. But I think this situation has brought some breathing space for at least a week, maybe even 2. So I can definitely see that, and it is a problem down the line. I'm going to go straight to our teams, if that's okay, because I know that we're on a bit of a time schedule and that sort of thing. So it'll give us a little bit of a chance to look through our kind of... I know there's probably more to discuss there, but I think we've covered it fairly well in the time allotted. So let's... Actually, you're up first, Danny, so I don't know if you want to just tell us your team and your plans at the moment.
Yep. So I did Bruno to Cunha last night. Like, everything I look at the moment, obviously I've got... The squad is a little bit tight. By the way, let's talk about Devaney quite quickly, because that's hilarious. He came on, scored a penalty, buried it. He should have scored another goal straight after that. Did you see that? He missed an absolute sitter to go 3-2. So yeah, that's quite nice. I don't expect him to start getting into the team, but he's obviously someone who the manager's got a bit of a bit of faith in to get these. But he's on penalties when he comes on the pitch, which is funny. But yeah, my squad is like quite tight money-wise. Just checking what I've got in the bank. So because I did Bruno to Cunha, I've now got 1.3 mil in the bank, because I had nothing before that. I've still got another free transfer, so I couldn't afford Thiago to Ekitike if I wanted to do it. And I could afford pretty much anything else that I'm interested in. So I'm probably... at the moment, planning to just roll. I could be aggressive and go like Semenyo to Wirtz and just something like that, and which is I'm not going to now, I don't think. But given that Semenyo is probably a sell, it's I don't. The reason why I don't like it, because you are committing there to the 4-4-2, and that's it's not ideal. I don't really. I think I do prefer not going 3 strikers kind of thing, or maybe even not getting Ekitike at all. But I don't want to commit to that, so. Got another transfer. I'll roll that to 2, which means that I can have lots of options next week. So I could even downgrade Senesi and then go Ekitike to Thiago to Ekitike if I wanted to get Ekitike. I could do Semenyo to Szoboszlai and then still do anything I want from there with another transfer. So, yeah, this is... Oh, I didn't read out the team, sorry. So, Raya in goal, O'Reilly, Timber, Lacroix, Virgil in defence, Cunha, Semenyo, Foden, Saka, and Thiago and Haaland. Senesi first sub. So, yeah, so I'll probably go like that. I do think Bruno's going to miss a month or so. I do think he's going to miss a few weeks, and obviously the quotes sort of suggest similar. I think I've just got to be decisive there. I think Bruno's probably going to drop tonight or tomorrow, and I would have lost money on that as well. So it's not like I could wait until after even. I know Arsenal are playing tomorrow night, aren't they? Expect like rotation in that game, but it's not ideal. I do expect a fair bit of rotation. So there is another game tomorrow, but it would have been 0.2, and a lot of my future moves is tight, basically, very tight. So if it was a Senesi downgrade and I wanted Ekitike, there's not much room there at all. So yeah, what do you reckon?
First question, just remind me how much money you got in the bank?
So now I've got 1.3, according to the app.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, I think your logic checks out. I mean, it does look like a nice, solid team this week. You've not. I think your situation is a little different to most because you've got two absolute bargain basement rotters there, haven't you? Well, Devaney obviously is a high point scoring midfielder on penalties at the moment, but in the broader sense, that does dictate a fair amount. Going up from one to something is very, very difficult. Semenyo's got that good form and nice fixture, and there really is nothing wrong with that at all that demands ripping anything up. And the more options next week, I mean, I've got a similar kind of thought process later on. It makes a great deal of sense to me.
One thing as well, especially with someone that I don't really feel great about, like a rotation. I mean, this is where Dewsbury Hall was so lovely, but it's something to think about for the future. But let's just say again, hypothetically, that because I could do something like Szoboszlai and Ekitike next week if I wanted to, right? But I deeply dislike the idea of triple Liverpool going into what game week is it? Game week 21, which is not far away, for Arsenal away. I do really dislike that, and I know that I just don't. I could move it around a little bit by then and maybe have someone in that midfield spot. But do I want instead of a Devaney any sort of 5.5 mid or something? Not really. Just to play for one game and have a bit of a rotation. Not really.
Yeah, this is what makes Virgil quite a tricky. Van Dijk a little bit tricky later on. I think I assume Burnley comes after Arsenal, right? But it might well be that a lot of people miss that fixture because I think they may well jump off before. I'd be quite interested to see what our teams look like, but then I haven't really walked it through yet.
I plan to just bench him. Sorry, Rich. I plan to just bench him for that. Hopefully, because I think I can get a cheap defender to play there, but.
True.
I wouldn't really want to be going in with, like say Szoboszlai, for example, and Ekitike as well against Arsenal. I don't know.
That's tricky, actually. Yeah. Any notes, Jossy, before we move on?
You muted yourself, Jossy. That you were already off.
You don't even have
no format of feedback. To be fair, no, it looks solid, and with one transfer and no route to Ekitike, it makes sense. And to be honest, I'm a little bit worried about having sold Thiago. I know he's going to burn me now.
Yeah. I know. I get you. Yeah. And actually, by the way, another player that probably is someone who is being moved on by a fair few. I mean, strange enough, in hindsight, Senesi is a perfectly reasonable play for most people this week. I think if I'd had him. Well, we'll talk about it in a second. That might have been someone I wouldn't have minded playing over one or two other options this week. I mean, especially if you've got a stanky midfield like this one, where you've still got Minte and Anderson in your squad. Jesus. Anyway, let's read it out. Sanchez in goal, Virgil van Dijk, Jurriën Timber. Obviously, I can't do first names as well. O'Reilly, Keane. We'll talk about that in a minute. Minte still there. He won't be playing, obviously, but he's in the starting lineup there for a minute. Foden, Cunha, Saka, Thiago, Haaland still on the captain. We can talk about that, by the way, because I think a fair few will be wondering about whether to go against him, with Saka or Hugo the boss. And on the bench, Dubravka, Anderson, and Gui. So a couple of things have already happened, as you can probably tell. So Bruno went to Cunha last night before a change. Every plan that I had involved Michael Keane, which is a bit of an indictment to me, probably as a manager at the moment. But I've become somewhat obsessed with him. Who knows whether that's a good idea, but I got him at a reasonable deal. So he's come in for Senesi as well. So 2 transfers to use, 2 remaining, and I've got 2.7 in the bank. So few options. I hate all midfielders. So I'm just going to start you with that one. So you can, if you're thinking I'm going to move to a midfielder, no, I'm not going to, because I hate them all. I also hate the 2 that I have, Minte and Anderson. So I'm going to play I'm very likely to play 5 at the back this week. So I'll probably have to play the Fulham Anderson. I could play Elliot Anderson. Minte definitely won't play. And it's just whether I do the Thiago to Hugo the Boss move. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I'd like to roll at least one of them so that I have the option on things like Bowen or Szoboszlai next week. But I'm sure you've done this, like Jossy, because you've got a similar midfield conundrum. Next week, Anderson, the midfield, Anderson and Minte start. The fixtures are okay for a couple of weeks, aren't they? I know they're not great as players, but Minte has West Ham and Burnley. I didn't care. I wanted to move him on desperately. My original plan going into this week was going to be. Well, from what you see there, it was going to be Joachim Anderson down to Alderete and Minte up to Cunha. And I would have been happy with that. I probably wouldn't have even been that bothered by the striker move. But we're not in that world anymore. So what can you do? So, yeah, any thoughts? It's just the only remaining move I'll consider is the striker move. Yeah, and I think
it's tricky. This is what would frustrate me, looking at that Minte position.
That's horrible, yeah.
And it's very difficult to do anything with it, really. There's not a lot of options.
I've deliberately put him in the starting lineup there so we could concentrate our dislike for this player. No, I'm only joking. He was quite good for me early doors, but now I'm very keen to move that on as soon as I can. Any notes? Any thoughts?
So what did you say? Sorry, how many transfers you got left again?
Got 2 left and 2.7 in the bank. So the Thiago move, if I want to do it, is there. Getting the 3rd striker up to anyone really is quite tricky because it's not quite enough. So if you put 2.7 on Mark Gui, what is that, 7 million, isn't it? So there's nothing I can do with that really. So the only way I can go 3 up top is if I sold Saka. So I could do Saka to Wirtz, for example, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Who would sell Saka early, huh? No, don't go into that. Yeah, Danny, what do you think?
Hopefully about 50,000 people if our friend Harry has. Yeah, real tough. I think there's not much you can do really, is it? I think it's pretty sensible to go from there into next week. So you're going to have to play Minte basically.
No. I will play one of the Andersons. Yeah,
you're playing Anderson.
Yeah, I'll play one of the Andersons.
One of the Andersons.
So, and midfield Anderson is almost nailed on religiously to get 4 points in that game. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, true. Sorry,
Anderson will score 3 points in likelihood, maybe 4, and if I'm lucky, maybe a bit more. So, strangely enough, defender Anderson has probably got a slightly higher ceiling this week. So yeah, I'll play one of them. And as I say, my decision is basically whether to move Thiago to Ekitike, and I've got the money to do that. Yeah, I know. I'll work out eventually. All right.
I know. So I have no idea where you're going to end up. Because you're not going to decide until 10 minutes before the deadline on Boxing Day. The pressure's going to build.
Yeah. Well,
what percentage are you leaning towards Ekitike?
Yeah, I would say it's more likely than not that I do it. Yeah, because I've got. What did I say? I've got 2.
2.7.
2.7. But if I even if I do that move, the next couple of weeks look okay. Actually, the team looks fine for a few weeks. I actually, strangely enough, one thing that I'm annoyed about is I was quite keen to move Joachim Anderson down to Alderete. I was really keen. I know, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I really liked my original move, which is, as I say, Minte up to Cunha, and that would have been via Joachim Anderson to Alderete, who is a nice fixture this week. So I'm a bit annoyed about that, but what can you do?
I like him too. Yeah, so, well, there's nothing else to say then, really. Yeah, it's just whether you do that Ekitike move, which is fine. I totally get it.
Get on at base price.
Well, yeah, right. He's gone up enough already, I think.
Oh, yeah, he has, hasn't he?
Yeah. So it's not. It's not. I don't like Anderson, and Fulham Anderson at the moment. It's not that pretty, is it?
No,
but he's got a flaw, like you say. There's a flaw there. So yeah, it's going to be scary for me. Probably the only person without Ekitike this week. What can you do, eh?
So from Hugo to Hugo. Oh no, sorry, Jossy. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So as alluded to,
read your team for me, sorry.
Yeah, I'll read that. So a couple of moves have been made already. After seeing the Isaac injury, I moved immediately to get Ekitike in that night. The reason I did it at the time was that I had seen a 3 transfer move that meant that I could, because I had 3.2 in the bank, I was able to bring Ekitike in for Thiago. I was going to move Minte out for Cunha, and I was going to make the extra 0.4 I needed by also doing Anderson down to Alderete. And that was going to leave me with the really powerful 5 midfield, including Wilson, without needing to get rid of Saka or but that's all gone out the way. And the reason I moved earlier is that I think I have 0.1 wiggle room to do that move. So I thought I'd lock in Ekitike. Now, in hindsight, so the following day I've moved Bruno to Cunha. So here I am with 2 free transfers still in my back pocket. And the fixation is that I need to have Minte on the bench or out of the squad. So I still have a potential move to make. I could move Anderson to Keane. That still leaves me the funds in the bank to do the Krupi Junior up to Bowen. So I've got Krupi Junior to Bowen money in the bank. I could ignore Anderson, bench him, move Krupi Junior to Bowen, and go for that strong front 3. Or I could also stick with my 3-5-2 formation and move Minte up to anyone up to 8.8 million, maybe 8.6 if I want Keane. But there's no one really there. I could leave that route open to potentially go to Rodgers in a couple of weeks, or I could pick up a Wirtz or a Szoboszlai, but I'm not particularly loving that. So I don't know where I lean at the moment. There's a part of me thinking it's quite exciting or different to do Krupi to Bowen and put Anderson on the bench till next week. I could just leave this and roll the 2 free transfers. Go on, Danny, you have notes. I see him notes.
I would do the Bowen move pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
I just think you're already there, really. You've sold Thiago. You've got the expensive forward. I mean, must have a lot of money. I thought I had a lot of money. Maybe I'm not calculated all yet. I suppose you've got Wilson in midfield.
Yeah, 2.8.
You get opportunities like this to be aggressive and to go for players that nobody's got, that they can't really get to. The distractions are elsewhere. The fixtures are there. The players there. It's just like when I got Foden a couple of weeks ago. No one was moving for him then, but objectively, the fixtures are there. You can justify it. It's aggressive.
Yeah.
You're moving into a guy who's a talisman who starts with Fulham at home. And I just think and it's 90-minute man to leave there. I mean, how wrong can it go? Fingers crossed for you, but how wrong can it go with what you're getting in? And I just think sometimes you get these opportunities where you've got to ignore what everyone else is doing. I think you've already got all the guys who are good and all the guys who are scary. So for me, I hate using these sort of words because there's no such thing as sort of aggressiveness, really. There's no such thing as that concept. But I would take that.
Who's going to get the points, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I would do there. I think. I mean, you find I mean, there's a few options that are fine, but that's the higher impact move as well. You're talking about going for a defender instead. Well, one of them's a higher impact move, a higher potential move, and that's the Bowen one.
Yeah, because I don't love playing Anderson this week away at West Ham.
No, I don't like it at all. I mean, he's fine. Don't get me wrong. I've been Anderson's biggest fan all season and stuff. He's got great DEFCON. He's a good player and all that sort of stuff. But I currently really struggle to see how they can get clean sheets because they weren't a team that did well for clean sheets anyway. And that was before they lost the most important midfielder and one of the centre backs to AFCON. And, they're away from home against a team that need wins that are good, are decent. It's like, it's going to take an awful lot to get more than just DEFCONs from that game for him. So it's like, I'd rather reach for the ceiling a bit somewhere.
Yeah.
What about you, Rich?
Yeah, well, I was going to say your situation, Joss, is a bit different to mine because I think I'm in a situation where I'd rather have. Okay, so realistically, getting Ekitike is the higher on paper, the higher upside move for me that I have remaining, right? And then I've still got one move left. But is it worth using my only remaining move to do Anderson to Alderete? Probably not.
No.
Is it worth doing any Minte to another cheap midfielder? Probably not. But in your shoes, you can get a genuine high upside talisman player. And even if you didn't, Keane is a perfectly decent move as well. So I think doing one of those, and you'd still have one left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. So doing one. My only thought is that I can't remember what your defense would look like in the following week. So you might have to do another move the following week to get by. But then I suppose Minte is okay potentially for a couple of weeks, isn't he? Not amazing.
Be good.
Yeah, so it's just the defense, really.
Yeah, and I think Anderson's a Keane is doable the following week. Everton.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. So I have that little bit of spare to get Anderson out because Shalabah would need to go on the bench the following week.
Yeah, that sounds fair. I've just come back to mine. Just actually before I go, is there any love for going whole hog and selling Joachim Anderson for someone this week? I can't really think whether it's worth it particularly. That's my only thing.
No, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth the options, the extra options you've got next week is the bottom line.
Yeah, that's my feel.
You're going to go to Alderete. He is at home, but Leeds are in decent form. I don't know much of a points difference between him and Anderson, really.
I think he's the only person that I would consider actually, because I think even if I did the Hugo move, for example, I'd have something like 5.2 or 3, and I don't know whether I want to spend that there anyway. So I think it's just worth taking it on the chin, hoping for a sort of solid 4 pointers from one of the Andersons and leaving it there. Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's go back to this. Now we have to dash because we have an FPL draft in 10 minutes, and I need to eat something and pop to the loo.
We didn't talk. We won't. We'll save it for whenever we're going to pod next. But there's loads of things we didn't talk about. I'm just looking at the chat, like DCL. I'd love to talk about him and Palace as well at some point. But we'll. When are we podding next?
I don't know. So next week will be potentially quite challenging, but we'll talk offline, so to speak, and figure it out. But we will be back on your screens as soon as we are able. Before we go, obviously we will wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. If you could wish us a Merry Christmas by hitting likes and subscribes, then we will be very happy to receive that present. So thank you very much. We hope that all goes well for you and you spend time with your loved ones and enjoy the next few days. And do enjoy yourselves. Hope the points come to you. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us again. So yeah, have a good evening, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Good night, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Bye.